Welcome back. You're watching The Fix with me, Karima Brown. I'm in conversation with Nicolette Kinnear. She is the wife of slain police officer Charl Kinnear. And I'm also, of course, in conversation with Parliament's Portfolio Committee Chairperson on Police, Tina Jumaat-Petersen. Tina, you've heard the fact that Mrs. Kinnear has still not received answers from the ministry or from Kehla Sitole. We see that Mr. Jacobs, or rather General Jacobs, who's head of crime intelligence, has been suspended. We don't know what the reasons are for it. I have asked him to come onto the show, but he said that he doesn't have permission to come on. When do you intend calling the police commissioner and the police minister, as well as the head of crime intelligence, to explain who took the decision to remove that Casper from the house of Charl Kinnear?
Karima, Mrs. Kinnear, we have already asked the National Commissioner and the Minister to respond to the question of why the security was removed. So it is not as if we're going to wait until January to ask this. They were expected to give us a report, and we are waiting that report. We will not go on holiday. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee is in contact with the Minister and the National Commissioner, and we will make sure that before we reconvene in January, we have answers. We do understand that all is not well. This is a clear picture of a puzzle that is not fitting. Now, for us to get a clear picture of the puzzle, we are asking questions. The public has the right to know, and the family have the right to know. Our oversight role extends beyond meetings. We do our work before we have meetings. We do our homework. We'll be asking those questions. We'll be expecting responses. And certainly, we are expecting a report from the National Commissioner and the Minister.
Now, one of the things I wanted to raise with the both of you, in preparation for me coming onto the show, I looked at the policy of the police and what it is required to do, because obviously police work is dangerous. The police policy is very clear, and Nicolette, I think it is part of the presentation that you are going to be making to the Portfolio Committee. You've looked at the policy, I've looked at the policy. Tina, I'm sure you've looked at the policy. Section 11 says very clearly, if a member's life is in danger, after a threat assessment is done, then of course the police is bound to provide protection for said member. And of course we know that this was never really done. And of course that is the responsibility of crime intelligence. They do threat assessments. And the reason I know this is because I had a threat on my life as a consequence of a political party putting my name on social media. So I know the process. Nicolette, what do you want to have answers to in terms of why the policy that is there to protect all police officers, not just Charl, if they are in danger, was not followed?
Karima, my question is, and I know on several occasions, and you've now also mentioned, General Jacobs' name is mentioned. Okay, now we all know General Jacobs is National CI. My question is, we've got Provincial CI, which is actually down the road from me. Yeah. What happened to Provincial CI in coming to do my threat assessment, in coming to assess or do an appraisal at my property, because no one has ever been to my property? So my question is clear that definitely policy wasn't followed. And I need to ask, I know the National Commissioner was asked the question, I think, at the Portfolio Committee, and Mrs. Petersen can help me, where the National Commissioner said that there was no official instruction or recommendation for Charl to be having guarding. So my only answer to that is, or my question is, if there was no official appointment to guarding, there was no official recommendation then done. Why was there no official recommendation done by CI? And my question is that I know when I hear this national CI, but provincially, what happened to our provincial CI? And was my house just overlooked because the members mentioned in my husband's 59-page document is based at Provincial CI? Those are the questions that I want answered.
Absolutely. Now, Tina, here is the conundrum for our viewers. Charl Kinnear complained that members of crime intelligence in the Western Cape were actually people who were harassing him. Now, those same members were, if one just looks at the train of command, ought to have done the threat analysis on him and recommend his protection. Now, one would understand that if he's taken the opportunity to write a 59-page affidavit to all the police bosses, including the police watchdog IPID, that these people that are supposed to protect him are in fact the ones that are threatening his life, that they can't be the ones doing the threat assessment. So at what point is it important to recognize this, and that this investigation or threat analysis ought to have actually been done by General Peter Jacobs? And of course, in Charl's report, it must also be stated that General Jacobs himself was part of the group of people that Charl mentions that were being bullied by this group of people. And now we see General Jacobs being suspended. Are we seeing a cover-up in the making here, with people in the Western Cape enjoying police protection, nothing happening to the provincial commander that is involved in crime intelligence, and Peter Jacobs being sacrificed here?
Karima, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand and appreciate that this case has not been dealt with properly. So as an oversight function, we have to ensure that we ask the correct questions. The rogue unit is absolutely an illegal unit. So the first question we have asked as a committee is why that rogue unit is still existing. We demand answers. The National Commissioner and the Minister were asked in the Portfolio Committee why the security of Colonel Kinnear was removed. Now, if you are unable to respond to questions asked by the Portfolio Committee, we expect you to then come back to us and respond to us in writing. We give you particular timeframes in which you have to give us that in writing, and obviously they have not provided us with an explanation. We are not going to leave it there. We have to get to the bottom of this. This matter is not being managed properly. We have also requested, and will request in writing, a sound report from IPID. IPID is supposed to look at any kind of misconduct which is actually perpetrated by police. You cannot have a situation where the hunter becomes the hunted. And this was the matter. This is what happened to Colonel Kinnear and a number of other police. I do not want to go into the detail, but we are in the Portfolio Committee. Definitely, we are asking questions. We demand answers. And Karima, I think the media has an important role to play in making sure that this doesn't become another case of 7 years of investigation with no answers.
Absolutely.
The committee will not allow.
One of the issues, though, Nicolette and Tina, is when I had Minister Cele here, he essentially admitted that the National Commissioner, Kehla Sitole, had not been honest with you as the Portfolio Committee, Tina, when he said that the anti-gang unit was properly constituted. Now, one of the things that Mrs. Kinnear raised here was the fact that her husband had chosen to go back to the Sea Point unit and that he wasn't necessarily part of the anti-gang unit. Now, what is the factual position? Because if the National Commissioner of Police lied to you or misled you, surely that means that he's not fit for office. You need to call him to account, because my understanding is that the unit isn't actually properly formed and is in danger of actually being dismantled, despite the fact that gang violence is actually on the rise, and a lot of them are threatened with being sent back to their provinces, in the same way as the National Investigation Specialized Team of IPID. There is an attempt to dilute these independent units that are doing good work, that looks at corruption, to place them back in the provinces. Is this something that worries you, Tina?
IPID has to be strengthened. We appointed an executive director for IPID earlier in the year, precisely because we were unhappy with the efficiency of the unit. Now, IPID has to absolutely explain to us what type of role they have been playing in terms of the Kinnear case. The Portfolio Committee requested the recordings of the meeting which we had, and that recording is available. It is a public recording.
But just, Tina, just answer the question on the police commissioner. Did he mislead Parliament? Did he mislead Parliament when he said that the anti-gang unit was properly constituted? And if he did mislead Parliament, what is the sanction that you can slap him with?
The first act which we had to do, because we had to in fact verify if the commissioner said this and what he had said. So this investigation, we cannot just slap sanctions. A thorough investigation has to be made. We have also given the commissioner and the minister an opportunity to respond. These responses are not going to be swept under the carpet. They will be made public, and we will account to the public.
Okay, Nicolette, I'm going to give you the last word because we are out of time. What is it that you want an absolute answer on, and more importantly, what kind of timeline are you putting, because these processes have dragged, and this can become a political football as factions in the police fight among themselves. What is it that you want from the Portfolio Committee, the Minister and the Commissioner?
Karima, from our side, and I think the Saturday after the assassination, the minister was brutally honest when he said SAPS had failed the colonel and it failed us as a family. So honestly, SAPS lost our race for us. Nothing can change the situation that I'm in. But there are policies in place for other members. The reality is that my husband was not the only crime fighter out there. And what is being done to ensure that those families are not sitting on the same couch that I'm sitting on? The last thing that I want is that my years of tears and the hardships and everything that we had to endure, that is now just wasted. I'd rather invest it into other families and other detectives, other guys in uniforms out there, families that's sacrificing. So I want, from my side, I want the Portfolio Committee, I want the commissioners, the minister to... The policies that are there, make sure that they are being used. In my case and my husband's case, they were just bluntly, they were just ignored. And we cannot have that. And people need to be held accountable. You can't sit in an office and just decide what am I going to do today and what am I not. Unfortunately, that name on the door comes with accountability and responsibility. And we must put on our big pants and really... be bold and make your decisions and stand for the policies that are there, and don't just leave the members out in the cold or ultimately in front of an open grave like we had to. In terms of timelines, obviously I know Parliament is going in recess, and I know Mrs. Peterson has said that even though they might not be in seating, that they are expecting answers. So I want my answers by middle of Jan at least. I need to know why the guarding was withdrawn. I need to know why nothing was done between the 6th and the 18th of September, knowing that my husband's phone was tracked and pinged. 2 weeks is not 2 days. So somebody needs to be bold enough to own up and say, listen, guys, I made a mistake, or I didn't do my job, or whatever the case may be. But I feel I lost my husband, but I also feel South Africa lost the expertise of my husband, and we need the answers.
Absolutely, and of course we will hold the Portfolio Committee to account. We will come back in the first or second week in January to check where that process is. Tina Peterson, Jumat Peterson, thank you so very much, and Nicolette, thank you so very much for taking the time out from your family to speak to us. This is something that will not leave the radar, and as the media we will continue to shine the light. Thank you so very much. Still ahead, who is going to blink first, the public sector unions or the government? Stay with us.